Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for the Alex on Tech and Tech Advice Live TV interview. It's time to welcome Peter Kenny. He's the Manager of Information Security at Canon Oceania to discuss the company's transforming print and document management in Australia and New Zealand report, which discloses, amongst a number of other things, that 70% of organisations in Australia and New Zealand have experienced at least one print security related incident in the last 2 years. And as I said, there's plenty more. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, let's start with the report itself and some of its headline findings. Now, I've included a link to the report in this video's description, and the article this video will be embedded into. But what are some of the headline findings, and why can printer security often be overlooked?
It's a broad question. Let's start with printer security. That can no longer be overlooked. Print devices are no longer the passive assets which we were all used to. They've grown in and evolved in capability. They can be truly considered to be endpoints now in a network, similar to laptops, desktops, and servers. And they need to be treated with the same rigor and respect that those traditional endpoints deserve. They can offer, print devices can offer threat actors a toehold into your environment through a number of means. Hence, the need to consider printer security as another building block in an organisation's security strategy. And that means considering challenges around Wi-Fi, physical access, printer configurations, cloud printing and security, the old chestnuts of firmware and anti-malware updates. An anecdote for you when we talk physical security. Years ago, I was working for, let's just say, a large organisation, and 2 floors below us was their fraud division. Someone just walked in onto the fraud division in a pair of overalls, disconnected their printer and fax machine, and walked out with it. No challenge, wow. No questions, nothing.
The Kevin Mitnick brand of security or infiltration.
Absolutely. Just be bold, walk right in, no one will challenge you. So that's just one particular example of how physical security can fail. And potentially a threat actor could walk out with the printer, its configuration, the hard drive, and with all the assets sitting on that hard drive. So in essence, organisations need to consider print devices in the same vein and with the same rigour as traditional endpoints. Now, some of the other highlights coming out of the IDC report are the increasing uptake in cloud security, for instance, the digitisation of assets, and the pursuit of efficiencies, cost reductions, and improved security. I think in essence, that sums it up.
Well, look, as I said, I'm going to have a link to the report. There's a lot more detail there. People can read it for themselves. But to make things clear for the viewers and readers and the risks they face with equipment that isn't properly secured or updated or is simply out of date, what are some of the examples of printer-related security breaches and the impact of print cybersecurity on business operations? I mean, you mentioned people can walk in and take out the hard disk, but there's actually some really concrete examples that people may not have considered.
Absolutely. Let's start with some of the top printer risks that an organisation may face. The printer, with their evolved capability, they can now serve as an initial attack vector. You've got Wi-Fi related challenges, connecting printers to an open Wi-Fi network, therefore allowing lateral movement across your network and your organisation. Hacked print jobs to access content, especially confidential content. Physical access to sensitive documents themselves, sitting there on printers. And again, that's another aspect of the physical security. Printer misconfigurations. Now, it's just a security 101 practice. Any new hardware that you get, you change the default configurations. If you don't change it, if it's misconfigured, that gives threat actors a perfect opportunity to introduce themselves into the environment. We've got cloud printing complexities, especially traffic and possibly the misconfiguration of encryption to and from. We've got data theft from decommissioned printers. That's a huge one. I've heard stories about decommissioned information assets sitting in a rubbish dump people scrounge for hard drives and thereby get access to confidential material, which should have in fact been wiped.
Mm.
And let's not forget, printers and MFDs these days actually have their own hard drives, similar to servers and your traditional endpoints. There's printer malware, which can be installed, and a perfect example is the Mirai botnet. There's exposed printer hardware, which is sitting on your network, exposed to the internet with no firewalls or protection in front of it. That essentially is putting the drawbridge down for the hordes to come and invade the castle.
Mm.
Unpatched firmware, unpatched anti-malware, and then a lack of a printer security strategy. And this is one of the key items mentioning in the report. What we're advocating is recognizing that printers do in fact pose a threat. They do have vulnerabilities, and they need to actually be addressed similarly to your network, your endpoints, your servers, treated with the same rigor and respect.
Less people think that technology inside of printers is something new. A friend had a shop in Canberra that was doing color laser copies, and this would have been in 1993, 94. He had a Canon CLC 500. It was one of those machines like you see in Officeworks these days that basically was a full-blown computer that could, scan and copy anything and print it up to A3 size. And it was a very advanced machine at the time, I think $160,000, something like that, to purchase it. You had to lease it. And then there was a gadget called a PSIPU, which was basically, for its time, a $15,000 parallel port or USB port, if people don't know what a parallel port is. So you connect it to your computer. And I mean, it was glorious. It was incredible. It was amazing. But that back then was, would have had a hard disk, it was a full computer. What it wouldn't have had at the time was Wi-Fi, but it surely would have had a network port if memory serves. And so, the digitization of the technology, the actual technology inside of printers is probably more advanced than some of the computers that people's staff are using in enterprises. So it really has to be taken super seriously. Otherwise, it'll be hacked, as you just described, and then it can be this zombie device that lets the bad guys in and do whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is what businesses need to recognize now, that these devices are intelligent in their own right. They unmanaged, they can in fact pose a serious risk to the security of your environment. And we also need to recognise that businesses are striving, as you mentioned, to achieve greater digitisation, to improve efficiencies in productivity, take up a cloud printing, that's now a serious consideration. And the big emphasis on printing and possibly document workflow is emphasis on cost, compliance and security now.
So, Peter, we're talking about this report on printer security. You're the manager of information security. So how often are you now having interactions with the CIO and the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer of various companies, about these very topics? Because, they're the ones who have the decision-making power to make sure that, they send out their teams to check the security of all their printing infrastructure. And for some of them, you might be reminding them that this is something that they have to do. But I'm just curious, what's your interactions been like?
Look, we have constant interactions with CIOs, CISOs, executive management of a large number of organisations. It's constant and ongoing. And we're supporting customers, as you say, reminding them of the potential for improvements in the print and transformation. We support them globally as partnerships, not just a supplier-consumer relationship. Canon actually engages as partnerships with our customers, and we help them with implementing solutions that are secure by design. A particular example is our Uniflow Online product, that's secure cloud-based print and scan management solution. It's end-to-end security. We actually go through all of that with our customers, looking at their requirements and presenting solutions to them in true partnership.
Okay, so in the modern era, we've heard over the past, several years, all about digital transformation. Companies have been doing robotic process automation. I mean, I even heard in the last couple of days that Anthropic with Claude, Google with Jarvis, and OpenAI with Tools is now going to be able to control your computer and do things for you. Do things for you. So we're really getting advanced. But when we talk about printing, often we're printing stuff directly to paper, and then that paper is still filed somewhere. And that seems to be a very sort of, 20th century sort of viewpoint. So how are companies digitalizing their documents these days with the latest 2024 technologies? And what do these modern workflows look like for businesses, including, as you mentioned before, the issues of compliance and regulations?
It's when we start talking about digitalization, I think, as you've alluded to here, it's getting rid of paper. If you look around offices, how much paper is actually still here in, what are we now, the 21st century, heading down towards the 22nd, and we're still drowning in paper. Digitalization means eliminating that paper, converting documents, images, everything into a digital image, which you can then use.
I was going to say optical character recognition, scanning all those documents in.
Yes, you would OCR, but you could also set these documents up originally so that they don't even touch printing. They're never printed. They are drafted as an electronic document. They are then integrated and introduced into a workflow. That workflow then moves through the organisation with the appropriate approvals or review points, and then it is stored and archived off onto a storage solution, which in effect makes it so much easier to achieve compliance. Putting security around those digital documents then means you can actually achieve greater control over, say, privacy regulations. And then you can also move forward with the whole rigor around your document storage for retention of intelligence and corporate knowledge, which a lot of times we're in danger of losing because so much of it is still on paper. And how often have we had people leave the organisation, and because their knowledge is on paper documents, all of a sudden no one can find them, and that knowledge leaves the organisation. With digital documents, you can introduce access controls, you can control them, you can manage them, you can archive them appropriately, and you can retain A, the knowledge, B, the evidence, but you can also scale out. You don't need to worry about archive storage for paper type documents anymore. It's all electronic. It can be stored locally, it can be stored on cloud. Basically, the sky's the limit for introducing efficiencies around digitized documents.
And I mean, it's safe to say, especially given you're a printing company, printing is never going to completely disappear. People are always going to still love reports and various things that want to interact with pen and paper on documents. So it's not as if a printer company is trying to eliminate printing altogether. Printing is still there. People are buying more vinyl records than ever. I mean, nowhere near its heyday. CD sales are going back up. Again, nowhere near its heyday. But vinyl and CD are going up in a world where everything is streaming. So it's a balance. And obviously the balance needs to tip towards, more digitization. I mean, you can have an entire Library of Congress on a single Kindle, for example, but, people love the feel of the books. Now, one of the things you mentioned as well is cloud printing solutions. So to make it clear again for viewers and readers, what is cloud printing? I mean, there isn't a printer in the cloud that you're sending your documents to. It's got to pop out somewhere. But presumably it's a printer not connected via USB and going through the cloud. But tell us, what is cloud printing, and what are the key considerations that businesses need to make before adopting cloud-based printing so they can enjoy its benefits?
The simplest definition of cloud-based printing: it's a service that allows users to print documents, photos, files from any internet-connected device or printer over the internet. So you, for instance, could be sitting there in your office. You could decide to print a document here in the office in Macquarie Park. It's over the internet. You don't have to have that physical connection between your device and the printer itself. It just shows how far printing and document management has actually evolved over the last few years. where everything now is achievable over the internet. And that can give you benefits such as remote printing capability, perfect example, platform and device compatibility. You no longer have to worry about the drivers, the correct driver being installed. And I remember times in a past life where we had to deal with dot matrix printers, and it was an absolute mongrel installing the correct drivers to make sure that your PC could actually communicate to that printer. That goes out the window largely with cloud printing. There's storage and security options. You can actually lock down access over that document you decide to print over cloud printing, so that not everyone can access it. Maybe only you can access it. You do that with the introduction of integration with your identity management system, and also multi-factor authentication to control who can actually access the document you've printed over the internet. And then you have management, capability, analytics, cost control, and scalability. There are also benefits coming out of the cloud printing.
It wouldn't be a 2024 interview if we didn't talk about AI and the Gen AI revolution. Now we can't have AI and Gen AI just making up stuff that when you hit print, it's got to be what you wanted to print. So how does it all figure into everything that you're offering?
I'll start by making the blanket statement that AI, it offers significant improvements in productivity and document management efficiencies. That's a given.
Yeah. So what does it mean?
Some organisations, we understand, have already enabled document management solutions, but the adoption seems to be low while the interest is high. That we expect to change over time. The IDC report states that I think it's 46% of small to medium businesses, 45% of enterprises, 33% of government are planning to adopt AI in the next 24 months. And the functions that could benefit include the asset management, printing management, analytics. But there's a note of caution in that promise. There's still a number of concerns around security, access controls, user training, the data quality, because I've seen some AI-generated documents, etc., just go way off the trail. As with anything, like with AI, it still needs that human oversight at the moment. The accelerating evolution of AI means in probably 2 to 5 years, human oversight may become minimal. But at the moment, you still need an adult in the room, so to speak.
Yeah. But I guess the question is, with the Canon solutions that people are able to buy today, and I don't know about your competitors, but are there any specific AI features in there as you're doing something, or is it something that you're planning on introducing in the future when concrete use cases for the printing and workflow scenarios are determined?
We are starting to look at it in the area of analytics. But as far as products coming down the track and AI enablement, I can't speak to those as yet for any unreleased products.
Yeah, well, it's all being done at HQ and R&D, and I'm sure they're trying to figure it out. Because, I mean, really, at the moment, when you hit print, you don't need AI. I mean, where you would need AI is in upscaling and making it look even sharper and crisper. And in theory, that's being done in the software, although there's a place for that to be done in the hardware too.
Oh, absolutely. And look, even in document management workflows, you could foresee the introduction of AI to actually take charge of a lot of those workflows, similar to the old concept of RPA, robotic process automation. The AI introduction would be taking that to another level.
As I was saying before, Google with their Jarvis, OpenAI with tools, and Anthropic, which has already launched the Claude 3.5 beta update that allows the AI to take control of the mouse and do things on the keyboard. I mean, that sort of takes RPA to the next level. And I mean, we're living in incredible times.
Absolutely. It worries me a bit about the future that our kids and grandkids are going to grow up in.
Well, look, and people have talked about that. Everyone's worried about Terminator or the AI is going to take your jobs. But you look at the Luddites back in the late 1700s or whenever it was, right? And they were destroying the looms because I thought their factory jobs were being taken. And since we've had a couple of 100 years of non-stop technological improvement and advancement, and do you see people out of work? I mean, sure, there are people out of work, but I mean, 90%, 80% of the world works. You know, it's not going to stop, I don't think, anytime soon. We still have to produce things. And if we get to an era where we've got robots doing a lot of things for us, well, that's a problem we'll deal with then. Just,
I mean, it's getting off the track a little bit, but I see that AI has got the potential, its convergence of AI, robotics, and increasing electrification of our society has got the potential to provide so much benefit for us. However, it's something we need to keep a careful eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with mobile phones, you know, we've got the major operators updating them for 7 years. I've got a printer here that would have been bought in the 2000s. I see printers, you know, the MFP style printers on the side of the road for the garbage collection. After a few years, people, you know, their home units, they want to get a newer version. So, but how often do companies upgrade their print infrastructure? We already know the risks and benefits of, you know, updating and getting new technology, but you know, what are the
it's almost like how long's a piece of string question.
Yeah.
The upgrade path, the asset lifecycle management for individual companies is different company to company, and it's based on their, I suppose, their cost structure, how much life they can get out of the devices, whether there's a need in their business to actually update or upgrade, or even start moving towards automated workflows, etc. So it's a much of a muchness. It depends on every individual organisation as to how they manage their life cycle management. At the end of the day, we're there to help them. We're there to operate as a partner and implement efficiencies, meet their requirements. But at the end of the day, it's the organisations who have the say over their refresh rate.
The era of set and forget for printer security and usages, you can no longer forget about it. You've got to be taking a keen interest in it, or it could be the next vector that steals your IP and all the rest. What else do we need to know about the report that we haven't discussed as yet?
I think we've covered a lot of it at the moment, but some of the key takeaways from the report: digitisation will increase, adoption of cloud-based print services will increase, key benefits expected to be improved customer and employee experience, enhanced compliance, security and revenue growth through cost containment. I think that's the bulk of what we need to take away from the report itself, other than never underestimate the security requirements of all endpoints across your network, not just desktops and laptops and servers, but printers and print devices also need to be a key component of your security strategy.
So look, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to end on a couple of personal questions. And the first is to ask if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
Oh, this will blow you away. An IBM PC XT, 640K of RAM, a 10 meg hard disk drive installed with Lotus 123, DBase 3 Plus, and Multi-Mate Advantage. It was a ripper for the day.
Yeah, I remember. That was that was the dream machine in the PC world. Would have been DOS 1.0, right? Or 2.0.
And look, and to be quite blunt, the organisation I worked for at the time, their IT department had this bad habit of PCs are the new thing. So they just showed up at every head office department and just, bam, there's your PC, walk away. What do we do with this?
You've got to have the instructions and the training.
Absolutely. It was a different time, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And because I'm talking to somebody from a printing company, can you please share a memory of the first printer that you or your family owned growing up?
It was a coloured dot matrix printer. That was the bee's knees at the time. It had the multicoloured ribbon, and I can still remember it. And you know, bzz, 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 across the page. It was a good, reliable printer. But I won't tell you how long ago that was, because that'll be giving away my age.
I remember dot matrix print as well. And I even had a little business re-inking ribbons, only the black ribbons, but had this
I
machine that I
remember
bought.
that sort of business. Yeah.
Yeah. And, every time I go to an airport, and I've just come back from a bit of an overseas tour to different conferences, the only place I still see dot matrix printers is in the airport. And it's the papers coming out. I don't know why they still do it like that. So my second last question is to ask if you could please share some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
This question always throws me because I never sit there and contemplate my navel. I think the best advice I've got is trusting yourself and always maintain your integrity, because your integrity is priceless.
That's very true. And I think I can add a new one to you from what you said before, which is don't just sit there gazing at your navel. Get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I was talking to someone internally before. I think a lot of it comes from my upbringing. I was brought up on a farm, and you're taught self-reliance. You need to do something, just get in and do it. Roll your sleeves up and do it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's another saying that if it's to be, it's up to me. So yeah. That's in the same vein.
I like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's very poetic. So, Peter, what is your final message to the viewers and the readers?
Really, the future. It's bright. It offers significant advantages in terms of efficiencies, cost reduction, automation, essentially quality of life, but never underestimate your security. We are all battling against well-funded, well-resourced threat actors. They are businesses. Never underestimate security, and your print devices need to be included in your security strategy and treated with the same rigor and respect as the rest of your endpoints.
Well, Peter Kenny, the Manager of Information Security at Canon Oceania, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the report and share its findings. I wish you the best of success, and I do hope we can speak again in the future.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.